Ethan Carter thought he knew every secret his past held. He was wrong, dead wrong. And the woman standing in his office doorway, a stranger holding a manila envelope, was about to prove it. Picture this: Manhattan, present day. The kind of gleaming steel glass towers that scrape the underbelly of heaven itself. Up on the 47th floor, corner office with windows overlooking a sea of lights, sits a man who is everything. Or at least, that's what Ethan Carter tells himself every morning when he straightens his Tom Ford tie and steps into his kingdom. 38 years old, CEO of Tech Vanguard Solutions, a company he built from his dorm room into a $2 billion empire. The kind of success story that gets featured in Forbes and whispered about at Harvard Business School. 6-figure watch, 7-figure salary, a penthouse in Tribeca that could house a small family, though he lives there alone, except for the occasional overnight guest. Ethan Carter is a man who calculated every risk, forecasted every outcome, controlled every variable. In the ruthless world of Silicon Valley acquisitions and venture capital bloodbaths, control isn't just power, it's survival. But here's the thing about control: it's an illusion, a beautiful, seductive illusion that works right up until the moment it doesn't. It's a Tuesday. Ethan remembers this because Tuesdays are board meetings, and board meetings are when he reminds 12 gray-haired investors exactly why they back him in the first place. The presentation went flawlessly. Quarterly earnings up 18%, 3 new patents pending, a merger with a European tech firm that would catapult them into the international stratosphere. His phone buzzes with congratulations. His assistant brings him single malt scotch, the expensive kind. His reflection in the window shows a man at the absolute peak of his game. But there's something else in that reflection, isn't there? Something in his eyes. A kind of emptiness that no amount of success can fill. Ethan doesn't think about it, hasn't thought about it in years. He learned long ago that feelings are inefficient, that emotional entanglements complicate clean business decisions. He learned to lock certain doors in his mind and throw away the keys. Behind one of those doors, a woman named Julia. 5 years ago, or was it 6? Ethan wasn't quite the polished corporate titan he is now. Tech Vanguard was growing fast, chaotically, the kind of startup velocity that meant 20-hour days and sleeping on the office couch. Julia Ramos worked in their legal department, sharp as broken glass, beautiful in that effortless way that didn't seem to require any effort at all, with dark eyes that could read a contract and a man's intentions with equal precision. Their affair was intense, secret, the kind of thing that happens when two ambitious people work too closely, stay too late, let their guards down in the fluorescent-lit quiet of 3 a.m. when the rest of the city is asleep. For 3 months, they were everything to each other. Stolen kisses in conference rooms, weekend getaways upstate where they pretend to be different people. Simpler people, people who could actually build a life together. Julia made Ethan laugh, made him feel something other than the constant gnawing hunger for more success, more validation, more proof that he mattered. But as Tech Vanguard exploded, Ethan pulled back, not consciously, or at least that's what he told himself. He missed dinners, canceled plans, let his phone go to voicemail when her name lit up the screen. The company needed him. The investors needed him. Julia would understand. Julia was ambitious too. She'd get it, except she didn't. One Monday morning, Julia's desk was empty. Her resignation letter was already processed. HR said she'd accepted a position at a firm in Chicago. Better opportunity, more money, personal reasons. Ethan told himself it was for the best. Clean break. No messy entanglement to complicate the business. He sent her a professional email wishing her well. She never replied. Within a month, he'd buried her memory beneath acquisition deals and product launches. Within 6 months, he couldn't remember the exact shade of her eyes. Within a year, Julia Ramos was just another chapter in his origin story. The woman who almost derailed his focus. The bullet he dodged. Ethan never knew, couldn't have known, that when Julia left that Monday morning, she was 8 weeks pregnant with his child. But back to Tuesday. Back to the moment when everything changes. Ethan is reviewing acquisition targets, red pen in hand, when his assistant appears in the doorway. Mr. Carter, There's a woman here to see you. She doesn't have an appointment, but she says it's urgent. Personal. Personal. Ethan doesn't do personal. Not at the office. Tell her to email me through the proper channels. I tried, sir. She's very insistent. She says her name is Maria Delgado, and she has legal documents you need to see immediately. Legal documents. Ethan's mind runs through possibilities. Another patent troll? Disgruntled employee? Some kind of shakedown? He glances at his Patek Philippe. He's got 12 minutes before his next call with Tokyo. Fine. 2 minutes. The woman who enters his office doesn't look like trouble. Mid-50s, maybe, with kind eyes and worn hands. She's dressed simply, a cardigan over a floral dress, sensible shoes. She carries a large purse and that manila envelope, which she clutches like it contains the nuclear codes. Mr. Carter. Her voice is heavily accented, warm but firm. My name is Maria Delgado. I was a nanny for Julia Ramos. The name hits Ethan like a physical blow. Julia. He hasn't heard that name spoken aloud in years. I'm sorry, Ms. Delgado, but I'm very busy. If you're looking for a reference for Julia. I'm not looking for a reference. Maria steps forward, places the envelope on his immaculate desk. I'm looking for you to take responsibility for your son. The words hang in the air. For a moment, Ethan is certain he misheard. His brain scrambles to make sense of the syllables. Your son. Your son. I don't have a son. His voice sounds distant, mechanical. You've made a mistake. No mistake, Mr. Carter. Maria's eyes are steady, unwavering. When Miss Julia left New York 5 years ago, she was pregnant with your baby, a boy. She asked me to care for him, and I have. I've raised that child like he was my own. But Miss Julia, her voice catches. She passed away 18 months ago. Car accident in Chicago. And before she died, she made me promise something. Ethan's mind is racing. Try to find the angle, the con, the explanation that makes sense. If Julia had my child, she would have told me. She tried. Maria's voice hardens. She sent letters, emails. You never responded. So she made a choice. She decided to protect her baby from a man who couldn't be bothered to answer when she reached out. That's... Ethan stands, anger flaring. That's impossible. I would have... You were very busy building your empire, Mr. Carter. Maria opens the envelope, pulls out photographs. A little boy, maybe 4 years old, with dark curly hair and eyes that Ethan's breath catches, eyes that look strikingly like his own childhood photos. This is Daniel, your son, and this... She pulls out legal documents. Is a petition for paternity testing and custody arrangements. You've been formally served. The room tilts. Ethan grabs the edge of his desk. I'll have a DNA test done this week. Maria continues, her voice businesslike now. The court date is 3 weeks from today. You should hire a lawyer, Mr. Carter. A good one, because I've raised this child for 5 years, and I won't let it be abandoned again. She turns to leave, then pauses at the door. Julia loved you. She thought you'd be happy about the baby. She was wrong about that, wasn't she? The door clicks shut behind her. Ethan stands frozen in his corner office, court documents in one hand, photographs of a little boy in the other, his entire world cracking like ice on a warming lake. The next 72 hours are a blur of impossible thoughts. Ethan doesn't sleep, can't eat. He cancels meetings, ignores calls, locks himself in his penthouse, and stares at those photographs until his eyes burn. The boy, Daniel, this stranger claims his name is Daniel, grins at the camera, gap-toothed and innocent. In one photo, he's holding a toy airplane. In another, he's sitting with Maria, reading a book, small hand pointing at the pictures. Could it be true? Could Julia have been pregnant and never told him? Ethan tries to remember those final weeks before she left. Was she different? Distant? He was so focused on the series' funding round, on the product launch. He didn't notice, didn't ask. He pulls up old emails, searching for anything from Julia after she left. Nothing. But wait! There's a folder in his spam. Emails from Jeramos_Chicago filtered automatically because he'd once marked a message as junk during a busy morning. He opens a folder. 15 emails. 15 messages from Julia, sent over a 3-month period 5 years ago. Ethan, I need to talk to you. It's important. Please call me. It's urgent. I'm pregnant. The baby is yours. I don't know what to do. I can't believe you won't even respond. Fine. I'll handle this alone. The final email dated 6 weeks after she left. Don't contact me again. I've made my decision. The baby, and I don't need someone who can't even be bothered to acknowledge our existence. Ethan's hands shake. He never saw these. Never knew. And yet, would it have mattered if he'd seen them? Would he have dropped everything? Would he have chosen Julia and a baby over Tech Vanguard? Over the empire he was building? The honest answer terrifies him. Wednesday morning, his lawyer calls. Marcus Chun, the attorney who's handled every contract, every dispute, every legal maneuver for Tech Vanguard since day one. Ethan, what the hell is going on? I got a family court petition here claiming you have a 5-year-old child. I don't know if it's true. Well, you need to figure out fast. You're a CEO of a publicly traded company. Family court filings are public record. The moment this gets processed, it's searchable. That means reporters, investors, board members, everyone will know. Can we suppress it? Seal the records? Not unless both parties agree, and this Maria Delgado doesn't seem interested in keeping quiet. Papers rustle on Marcus's end. Ethan, if this kid is yours, you've got a serious problem. 5 years of no child support, no involvement. A judge could crucify you. And if he's not yours, you've still got the public spectacle of this woman claiming you abandoned your own child. So what do? You show up to the hearing. You take the DNA test. And you pray this woman is lying, because if she's not, your life is about to get very complicated. That evening, Ethan's girlfriend, Catherine, a gallery owner he's been seeing for 8 months, comes to his penthouse. She's seen the news somehow. A gossip blogger got wind of the court filing. Tech Titan secret love child? Reads the headline. Is it true? Catherine's voice is ice. Do you have a son? I don't know. How can you not know? Because I didn't know Julia was pregnant. I never... He stops. How does he explain the spam folder? The ignored emails? The complete disregard for a woman who'd love him? Catherine sets her key to his apartment on the counter. Call me when you figure out what kind of man you actually are. She leaves without looking back. Ethan pours himself another drink. The city glitters beyond his windows, indifferent to his unraveling. Thursday. Ethan stands outside the family court building downtown. It's one of those brutally honest buildings. No architectural pretension, just gray stone and function. People stream in and out, carrying folders, herding children, wiping tears. This is where lives get decided, where families break apart and reform, where the messiest parts of human existence get sorted into legal categories. Ethan doesn't belong here. He belongs in boardrooms and corner offices, places where problems have clean solutions and relationships are governed by contracts. But he's here anyway, because somewhere in that building is a woman who says she raised a son. And somewhere in this city is a little boy who might have his DNA, his eyes, his smile. A child who's been alive for 5 years without Ethan knowing he existed. Marcus meets him at the entrance. Ready? Ethan looks up at the building. Past the doors, past the security checkpoint, past the waiting rooms and courtrooms, his future waits. A future he never planned for, never wanted, never even imagined. No, Ethan says honestly, but let's go anyway. They walk to the doors together, and with each step, Ethan feels his old life, the controlled, predictable, successful life, slipping away behind him like water through cupped hands. The hearing room is smaller than he expected. Maria sits across the aisle with her own attorney, an older woman with sharp eyes. Between them, in a folder on Maria's lap, are more photographs of Daniel. The judge enters. Everyone stands. The proceeding begins with language Ethan barely understands. Petitions and responding parties and motions for genetic testing. His lawyer speaks for him, objecting to various claims, requesting postponements, arguing technicalities. But Ethan can't focus on any of it, because Maria has placed one photograph on her table where he can see it. Daniel at what must be a birthday party, wearing a crown made of construction paper, chocolate cake smeared across his grin, pure joy radiating from every pixel. A child, his child. Maybe, possibly, the odds swim in Ethan's head. The timeline fits. The resemblance is uncanny. But DNA doesn't lie. The test will reveal the truth. The judge orders a paternity test. Orders Ethan to submit to genetic sampling within the week. Schedules a follow-up hearing for results. As they file out, Maria catches Ethan's arm in the hallway. He asks about his father sometimes. She says quietly, "I tell him his papa is a very important man, very busy. I don't tell him the truth, that his papa never bothered to find out he existed. If Julia had told me." She tried. You chose not to hear. Maria's grip tightens. "You can deny it in court all you want, Mr. Carter, but we both know the truth. And soon, the DNA will prove it. Then what? Then will you finally be the man Julia believed he could be? Or will you disappoint your son the same way you disappointed her?" She walks away, leaving Ethan alone in the courthouse hallway, surrounded by strangers processing their own broken families, their own impossible choices. That night, Ethan sits in his empty office. The city glows beyond his windows, beautiful and cold. He holds those photographs Maria gave him, or rather, that he took when her back was turned, unable to resist. Daniel, the boy who might be his son. 5 years. 5 years of soccer games and first words and bedtime stories and skin knees. 5 years of a life that happened without him, because of choices he made, because of messages he ignored, because he thought building an empire was more important than answering an email. The DNA test is scheduled for tomorrow. A simple cheek swab that will either shatter his world completely or prove this was all an elaborate mistake. But Ethan already knows, doesn't he? Deep in his bones, in that place where instinct lives, he knows. The boy is his, which means everything changes. His reputation, his relationships, his entire carefully constructed life. All of it built on the assumption that he controlled his own narrative, that his past stayed in the past, that consequences could be managed like quarterly earnings. He was wrong. And now, whether he's ready or not, whether he wants it or not, Ethan Carter must decide what kind of man he actually is. The kind who runs from responsibility, or the kind who faces it. But here's the real question, the one that keeps him awake as Manhattan settles into its restless midnight rhythm. What if the DNA test reveals he's the father? But there's something else Maria isn't telling him. What if Julia's death was an accident? What if someone wanted to make sure the secret stayed buried? And what if, by stepping into this courtroom, by claiming this child, Ethan has just painted a target on both their backs? The truth is coming. But is Ethan ready for what else might come with it? The DNA results arrive on a Thursday. Not by mail, not by email. Hand-delivered by a court clerk who makes Ethan sign for them like he's accepting a bomb, which, in a way, he is. But before we open that envelope, before we detonate that particular explosive, you need to understand what happened in the 13 days between the court order and this moment. Because those 13 days didn't just change Ethan Carter's life. They rewired his entire understanding of reality. And by the time that clerk placed those results in his trembling hands, Ethan had already discovered something that made paternity seem like the least of his problems. Let me take you back. Day 1 after the hearing. Ethan doesn't go to his office. Can't face the knowing looks, the whispered conversations that stop when he enters a room. Instead, he sits in his penthouse with his laptop and does what any desperate man with unlimited resources would do. He starts digging. Maria Delgado, born in Guatemala, immigrated to the U.S. 28 years ago. Clean record. No criminal history. She worked for Julia Ramos for 6 years, starting a year before Ethan even met Julia, which means Maria knew Julia before the affair, before the pregnancy, before everything fell apart. She was there, a witness to it all. But here's where it gets interesting. 3 months after Julia died in that car accident in Chicago, Maria moved. Not to a smaller apartment, not to a cheaper neighborhood. She moved to a brownstone in Brooklyn worth $2.3 million. Purchased, not rented. Purchased outright. Cash deal, no mortgage. How does a nanny afford a $2 million brownstone? Ethan leans back, mind racing. Either Maria had family money she never disclosed, or someone paid her. A lot. But who? And why? He picks up his phone, calls the private investigator he used during a corporate espionage case last year. I need everything you can find on Maria Delgado and Julia Ramos. Phone records, financial transactions, employment history. Everything. And I need it yesterday. The investigator, a former FBI agent named Carla Mendez, doesn't ask questions. How deep do you want me to go? As deep as it gets. That's expensive. I don't care what it costs. Because by now, Ethan has realized something crucial. This isn't just about a paternity test anymore. This is about control. Control he's already lost. And the only way to get it back is information. If Maria is lying, he needs to prove it. If she's telling the truth, he needs to understand why she waited 5 years to come forward. And if someone else is pulling strings behind this entire scenario, he needs to know who, and why, and what they want. Day 3. Ethan forces himself back to the office. The board meeting is unavoidable. They've seen the headlines. Tech CEO's secret child scandal. Silicon Valley's deadbeat dad. The vultures are already circling. David Morrison, the board chairman, pulls him aside before the meeting. 62 years old, silver-haired. The kind of man who built his fortune in the 80s and thinks everyone after him is soft. Ethan, this paternity situation. How bad is it? It's under control. The Wall Street Journal called me yesterday. They're preparing a profile. The cost of success, that's what they're calling it. How brilliant entrepreneurs sometimes sacrifice their personal lives on the altar of ambition. David's eyes are cold. It's not exactly the PR we need 3 weeks before the European merger. The merger will go through. Not if our CEO is embroiled in a custody battle that makes him look like a deadbeat. David leans closer. We have a morality clause in your contract, Ethan. Don't make us use it. Morality clause. A fancy way of saying, behave or we'll replace you. The company Ethan built from nothing, and they're threatening to take it away because of a past he didn't even know existed. But here's the thing, and pay attention, because this is where the story takes its first dark turn, as Ethan sits in that boardroom, defending his reputation. His phone buzzes with a text from an unknown number. You should ask Maria about the trust fund. Ask her who set it up. Ask her why Julia never touched it. Ethan stares at the message, deletes it, looks around the boardroom. Nobody's watching him. Nobody's smirking. Whoever sent this isn't in the room, which means someone else knows about Maria, about Julia, about all of it. Someone who's watching, waiting. But for what? The genetics lab is in a nondescript medical building in Midtown. Ethan arrives early, sits in the waiting room with a handful of other nervous souls awaiting their own biological verdicts. A young couple, maybe 19, holding hands too tightly. An older man with trembling fingers, alone. A woman with a toddler who keeps asking, "Is Daddy coming?" We're all here for the same reason, Ethan thinks. To learn truths we're not sure we want to know. Maria arrives with Daniel, the boy, his possible son. Ethan's heart lurches at the sight of him, small, shy, clutching Maria's hand like it's the only stable thing in his universe. Dark curls that flop across his forehead. Those eyes. God, those eyes that could be Ethan's own reflected back from childhood photographs. Daniel looks at Ethan with open curiosity. Are you the important man? He asks. Ethan's throat closes. Yes. I suppose I am. Maria says you're very busy. Too busy to visit. The accusation in those innocent words cuts deeper than any courtroom argument. I'm sorry about that. It's okay. Daniel shrugs with the resilience of children who've learned not to expect too much. Maria takes good care of me. The technician calls him back. The test is simple. A cotton swab inside the cheek. 5 seconds that will determine everything. Ethan watches as Daniel opens his mouth obediently, as the technician swabs his cheek, as his potential son giggles because it tickles. Then it's Ethan's turn. The same procedure. The same clinical efficiency. The genetic material that will either prove he's a father or free him from this nightmare. Results in 7 to 10 business days. An eternity compressed into clinical language. The private investigators report, day 7. Carla Mendez meets him at a coffee shop in the village. The kind of place where nobody knows or cares about tech billionaires and their problems. She slides a manila folder across the table. It's thick, ominously thick. "You're not going to like this," she says. Ethan opens a folder. Inside are financial records, phone logs, photographs, email printouts. He starts reading, and with each page, the ground beneath him shifts a little more. Maria Delgado didn't buy that brownstone with her own money. It was purchased through a trust, the Julia Ramos Memorial Trust, established 3 months after Julia's death. The trustee? A law firm in Chicago. The beneficiaries? Daniel Ramos and Maria Delgado. The trust is funded with $2.8 million. Money that came from Julia's life insurance policy. A policy worth $3 million that Julia took out 6 months before she died, naming Daniel as the primary beneficiary and Maria as the custodial guardian. But here's the part that makes Ethan's blood run cold. Julia's car accident was in Chicago. She died in Milwaukee, 3 hours away from where she supposedly lived and worked. She was driving at 2 a.m. on a rural highway in the middle of nowhere. The police report notes she lost control on a curve, struck a tree at high speed. No other vehicles involved. No witnesses. No skid marks suggesting she tried to brake. The case was closed as an accident, but the investigating officer noted something strange in his report. Vehicle's maintenance records show brake service performed 2 days prior to accident. Brake failure unlikely. Carla watches Ethan process this. "There's more," she says. "Julia's employer in Chicago, the law firm she supposedly joined. I called them. They have no record of a Julia Ramos ever working there. That's impossible. She sent me an email saying she accepted a position. Then she lied. Or someone sent that email for her." Carla pulls out another document. "I tracked Julia's credit card statements. For the first 2 years after she left New York, she was in Philadelphia, not Chicago. She was living in a small apartment in South Philly, working remotely for a legal consulting firm. Then, 3 months before Daniel was born, the trail goes dark. No credit card activity. No apartment lease renewals. Nothing. She went off the grid. Or someone helped her go off the grid." Carla taps the folder. The question is why? What was Julia running from? Or who? Ethan's mind spins. None of this makes sense. Julia was careful, methodical, brilliant. She wouldn't just disappear without reason. Wouldn't fake her employment. Wouldn't, unless she was protecting herself. Protecting the baby. From what? Day 13. Thursday. The envelope. Ethan's hands shake as he opens it. Marcus stands beside him, reading over his shoulder. The language is technical, full of genetic markers and probability percentages and scientific certainty. But the conclusion is clear. Based on the analysis of genetic markers, the probability that Ethan Carter is a biological father of Daniel Ramos is 99.98%. Ethan sits down heavily. It's real. All of it. He has a son. A 5-year-old boy he's never held, never read to, never tucked into bed. 5 years of fatherhood he'll never get back. "Ethan?" Marcus's voice sounds distant. "Are you okay?" But Ethan isn't listening, because there's a second page in the envelope. A note, handwritten, paper clipped to the official results. "Mr. Carter, during the analysis, we noticed something unusual. The child's genetic markers include a rare deletion on chromosome 15q11.2. This deletion is typically inherited. However, your genetic profile does not show this deletion. This suggests Daniel's mother carried it. What's interesting is that this deletion is associated with certain medical conditions that require monitoring. I thought you should know. Dr. Rebecca Chow, lead geneticist." Ethan stares at the note. A genetic deletion. Something from Julia's side. Something that requires medical monitoring. His phone rings. Unknown number. He almost ignores it, but something makes him answer. Mr. Carter? A woman's voice, professional but urgent. My name is Dr. Stephanie Torres. I was Julia Ramos's physician in Philadelphia. I've been trying to reach you for weeks, but your office wouldn't forward my calls. I saw the court filing. I know about the paternity test. We need to talk. About Julia. About what she was afraid of. And about why she made me promise never tell anyone about Daniel's medical condition unless you came forward as his father. Ethan's pulse pounds. What medical condition? Not over the phone. There are people. She stops abruptly. In the background, Ethan hears a sound. A door opening. Footsteps. Meet me tomorrow. Cafe Lalo on West 83rd. 2 p.m. Come alone. And Mr. Carter, be careful who you trust. Julia didn't die in an accident. The line goes dead. That night, Ethan can't sleep. Can't think. Julia didn't die in an accident. The words loop through his mind like a skipping record. What does that mean? Who would want Julia dead? And why? He pulls up everything Carla found. Reads it again. The life insurance policy. $3 million. The mysterious trust fund. The fake employment history. The off-grid disappearance. The late-night drive on a rural highway with no witnesses. And now, a doctor claiming Julia was afraid of something. Someone. Ethan's phone buzzes. Another text from the unknown number. Did you really think you could start asking questions without consequences? You're being watched, Ethan. Your office. Your apartment. Even that coffee shop where you met the private investigator. Stop digging. Accept the paternity. Pay child support. Walk away. Or the next accident won't be Julia's. Terror, cold and absolute, floods through him. They're watching. Right now. They know about Carla, about the investigation, about everything. He walks to his window, looks out at the city. Somewhere out there, in one of those 10,000 windows, someone is watching back. With binoculars? Cameras? Who are they? His phone rings. It's Marcus. Ethan, we have a problem. Someone leaked the DNA results to the press. It's everywhere. Every news site. Every social media platform. Tech CEO confirms secret love child. The board is calling an emergency meeting tomorrow. They want your resignation. They can't. They can. The morality clause. They're invoking it. Ethan, they're going to force you out of your own company. The walls are closing in. His reputation destroyed. His company being stolen. Mysterious threats. A dead woman who didn't die accidentally. A son with a medical condition. Nobody will explain. And somewhere in all of this, Maria Delgado sits in her $2 million brownstone, playing a devoted nanny, while secrets pile up around her like corpses. Day 14. Friday. Ethan sits alone in his penthouse at 3 a.m. The city glitters beyond his windows, but it's not beautiful anymore. It's predatory. Watching. Waiting. Everything he built is crumbling. The board meeting is in 6 hours. His lawyers are preparing for the worst. The press is camped outside his building. His phone hasn't stopped ringing with reporters, investors, former friends suddenly too busy to talk. But none of that matters compared to the central, terrifying truth. Julia is dead, possibly murdered. And if she was killed because of Daniel, because of the paternity secret, then the moment Ethan confirmed he's a father, he painted a target on that little boy's back. And on his own, he thinks about Daniel. That small voice asking, "Are you the important man?" Those eyes, so much like his own. That gap-toothed smile in the photographs. His son, his child, a boy who's existed for 5 years in a world Ethan knew nothing about, protected by Maria, haunted by Julia's death, carrying a genetic deletion that requires medical monitoring that nobody will explain. What has Ethan done? By stepping forward, by confirming paternity, has he made Daniel a target? Has he put his own son in danger from whoever killed Julia? The questions multiply, breed, consume him. Who set up the trust fund? Who knew about Daniel? Who wanted Julia dead? Who's watching him now? And most terrifying of all, is Maria protecting Daniel, or is she part of whatever conspiracy got Julia killed? Ethan looks at his reflection in the dark window. The successful CEO is gone. In his place, a man he doesn't recognize. Powerless, terrified, desperate. For the first time in his adult life, Ethan Carter has no control, no plan, no exit strategy. He's completely, utterly lost. His phone buzzes one final time. Another message from the unknown number, but this one includes a photograph. It's recent, time-stamped from earlier tonight. It shows Daniel asleep in his bed, teddy bear tucked under his arm, nightlight casting shadows across his innocent face. Someone was in Maria's house, in Daniel's bedroom, close enough to photograph him sleeping. The message below the photo reads, "Beautiful boy. Would be a shame if something happened to him. Last warning, Carter. Stop investigating. Accept your role as a father. Pay your child support, or your son pays the price. You have 24 hours to decide." Ethan's hand shakes so badly, he almost drops the phone. They're threatening Daniel, his son, the child he's only just discovered exists. But here's what Ethan realizes in that moment of absolute terror. If he backs down, if he stops asking questions, Daniel remains in danger. Because whoever killed Julia is still out there, still watching, still controlling the narrative. And as long as this person remains hidden, Daniel will never be safe. Which means Ethan has only one choice. He has to go forward, has to meet Dr. Torres tomorrow, has to uncover who killed Julia and why, has to expose whoever is threatening his son, even if it costs him everything else, his company, his reputation, his life. Because 5 years ago, Ethan Carter ignored Julia's emails, chose his company over her, let his own child grow up without knowing him. He can't make that mistake again. Tomorrow, Dr. Torres will tell him secrets that Julia died protecting. Tomorrow, Ethan will finally understand what his son is caught in the middle of. Tomorrow, everything will change again. But will tomorrow come before the people watching Daniel make good on their threat? And when Ethan meets Dr. Torres at that cafe, will he be walking into a trap? Because here's the real question. What if the doctor who's offering to reveal the truth is actually the one who's been threatening him all along? What if everyone, Maria, Dr. Torres, even his own lawyer Marcus, is part of a conspiracy so deep, so calculated, that Ethan won't see the betrayal coming until it's too late? The DNA test proved Daniel is his son, but it didn't answer the question that matters most. Who wants them both dead and why? What would you do if saving your son meant destroying everything you'd ever built? Hold that question, because Ethan Carter is about to answer it in ways that will shock you, devastate you, and maybe, just maybe, restore your faith in redemption. But first, he has to survive the next 24 hours. It's 1:47 p.m., 13 minutes before Ethan is supposed to meet Dr. Stephanie Torres at Cafe Lalo. He's sitting 3 blocks away in his car, watching the cafe entrance through the rearview mirror, heart hammering against his ribs like it's trying to escape his chest. Because here's what happened after that threatening text. After that photograph of Daniel sleeping. After the longest, darkest night of Ethan's life. He made a choice. Not the safe choice. Not the smart choice. The only choice. He called Carla Mendez, the private investigator, and told her everything. The threats. The photo of Daniel. Dr. Torres' phone call. The message about Julia not dying accidentally. All of it. And Carla, with the calm efficiency of someone who's seen every flavor of human evil, said 4 words that changed everything. We set a trap. So here's the trap. Ethan goes to meet Dr. Torres. But he's not alone. Carla has positioned 3 former colleagues, retired agents, people who know how to spot surveillance, how to identify threats, at strategic points around the cafe. One's inside, pretending to read a newspaper. One's across the street, at a bus stop. One's in a delivery van with recording equipment that could pick up a whisper from 50 feet away. If Dr. Torres is legitimate, they'll protect her. If she's part of the conspiracy, they'll document everything. And if the people threatening Daniel show up, well, Carla promised Ethan they wouldn't leave without answers. 1:52 p.m. Ethan's phone buzzes. A text from Carla. We have eyes on a woman matching Torres' description. She just entered the cafe. Alone, but there's a man in a gray sedan parked across the street. He's been there for 20 minutes, watching the entrance, Ethan's pulse spikes. Is he one of ours? Negative. Want me to approach? Ethan thinks fast. If they spook whoever's watching, they lose their chance to identify them. But if they don't, Dr. Torres might be in danger. Or worse, she might be bait to lure Ethan into something he can't escape. Stay in position, he types back. I'm going in. He steps out his car. The October wind cuts through his jacket. Each step toward that cafe feels like walking into fire. But he keeps moving. Because somewhere in the city, Daniel is playing Maria's living room, unaware that his entire existence has become the center of a conspiracy Ethan still doesn't understand. Dr. Stephanie Torres is exactly what you'd expect a pediatrician to look like. Early 40s, kind eyes behind wireframe glasses, the slightly harried appearance of someone who spent too many nights on call. She stands when Ethan enters, extend a hand. Mr. Carter, thank you for coming. I wasn't sure you would. They sit in a back corner booth. Torres orders chamomile tea. Ethan can't imagine consuming anything. His stomach is a knot of anxiety. You said Julia didn't die in an accident. Ethan says without preamble. Explain. Torres glances around the cafe nervously. Julia came to me when she was 7 months pregnant. She was terrified, not of childbirth, of someone finding her, finding the baby. Who? She wouldn't tell me. She just said that she'd learned something at her old company. Your company, Tech Vanguard. Something that put her life at risk. Corporate secrets, she said. The kind that powerful people kill to protect. Ethan's mind races. 5 years ago, Tech Vanguard was in its explosive growth phase. Dozens of patents, military contracts, sensitive data, infrastructure deals. What could Julia have discovered? She made me promise, Torres continues, that if anything happened to her, I would only contact Daniel's father if he came forward on his own. She said if you never acknowledged paternity, it meant you were either part of a conspiracy or too dangerous to trust. But if you did come forward, if you claimed Daniel publicly, it meant you didn't know what she discovered, which meant you might be the only person who could protect him. Protect him from what? Torres reaches into her bag, pulls out a flash drive. From this. Julia gave me this the day before she died. She said if anything happened to her, I should give it to Daniel's father, but only if he proved himself worthy. Only if he risked everything to acknowledge his son. Ethan stares at the flash drive like it's a grenade. What's on it? I don't know. It's encrypted. Julia said only you would know the password. Torres slides across the table. She said you'd understand once you saw Daniel. Once you knew what you'd been missing. Before Ethan can respond, his phone buzzes. A text from Carla. Gray sedan just moved. 2 men exited, heading toward cafe. Armed. Get out now. Terror floods Ethan's system. He grabs Torres's wrist. We need to leave. Right now. But it's too late. The cafe door opens. 2 men in dark suits enter, and Ethan recognizes one immediately. David Morrison, his board chairman, the man who threatened to invoke the morality clause, the man who's been pushing Ethan out of his own company, and he's pointing a gun directly at Ethan's chest. The climax confrontation. I'm disappointed, Ethan. David's voice is calm, almost paternal. I warned you to stop digging. You couldn't leave it alone. The cafe erupts in screams. People dive for cover. Torres tries to run, but the second man, Ethan doesn't recognize him, grabs her arm, forces her back into the booth. David, what the hell are you doing? Ethan's hands are raised, palms out. This is insane. Insane? No, Ethan. Insane was Julia Ramos discovering that Tech Vanguard's military contracts were built on stolen Chinese intellectual property. Insane was her threatening to go public unless we stopped. Insane was thinking we let a junior attorney destroy a $2 billion company over her moral outrage. The pieces click into place with sickening clarity. Julia had discovered corporate espionage, theft on a massive scale, and when she threatened to expose it, you killed her. Ethan's voice is hollow. The car accident. You killed Julia. We tried to reason with her first, David says, as if discussing a failed negotiation. Offered her money, a promotion, but she was pregnant and hormonal and wouldn't listen. So, yes, we eliminated the problem. And now I'm the problem. Now you're the loose end. David gestures with the gun. The flash drive. Give it to me. Ethan's mind races. Carla's people are outside. They heard everything through the recording equipment. But if Ethan hands over the drive, David will kill him anyway. Will kill Torres. Will go after Daniel to eliminate every witness. So Ethan does the only thing he can. He tells a lie. I don't have it. Julia never gave it to Dr. Torres. I made that up to draw you out. David's eyes narrow. You're lying. Am I? Search me. Search the doctor. You won't find anything. For a moment, uncertainty flickers across David's face. And in that moment, the cafe window explodes inward. Glass rains down. Carla's team swarms in. 3 armed former federal agents who move with lethal efficiency. David's gun clatters to the floor. He's face down, hands zip-tied behind his back. Before Ethan's next heartbeat, the second man tries to run. Makes it exactly 4 steps before he's tackled. Sirens wail in the distance. Getting closer. Carla appears at Ethan's side. You okay? Ethan can't speak. Can't process. His board chairman just tried to kill him in a crowded cafe because Julia discovered corporate espionage 5 years ago. Because she was going to expose Tech Vanguard's illegal foundation. Because Ethan built his empire on stolen secrets he never knew existed. The recording Ethan manages. You got everything? Carla holds up her phone. Every word. Full confession. He's done. The second twist, Maria's truth, but the story doesn't end there. Because that evening, after David Morrison is arrested, after his accomplice names 3 other board members involved in Julia's murder, after the FBI seizes Tech Vanguard servers and begins unraveling 5 years of corporate fraud, after all that, Ethan drives to Brooklyn, to Maria's brownstone, to his son. Maria opens the door with Daniel hiding behind her legs. She knows. Somehow, she already knows everything. The trust fund, Ethan says. Julia set it up to protect Daniel financially if anything happened to her. But she also set it up to protect you. To make sure you'd never have to choose between raising Daniel and surviving financially. She trusted you completely. Maria's eyes fill with tears. She was my best friend. When she learned she was pregnant, she was so scared. Not of being a mother, of being found. She knew they were watching her. Knew they'd kill her eventually. So she made plans. The trust, the fake trail to Chicago, the life insurance, everything designed to keep Daniel safe. And coming to me, bringing me to court, that was Julia's final instruction. Maria says softly. She wrote me a letter, to be opened only if she died. It said, wait 5 years. If Ethan never comes looking for Daniel, it means he knew what I discovered. It means he's one of them. But if he doesn't know, if 5 years pass and he's still oblivious, then bring Daniel to him publicly. Force the conspiracy's hand. Make them reveal themselves. Because the only way to protect our son is to expose the people hunting him. Ethan's throat closes. Julia planned all of this. From beyond the grave, she orchestrated her own justice. Knew that by forcing Ethan to acknowledge Daniel publicly, by creating a legal record, by making it impossible to hide the child's existence, she'd flush out the conspirators. Because they couldn't let Ethan dig into the past. Couldn't let him discover what Julia knew. She used her own son as bait. And it worked. She loved you, Maria says, even at the end. Even knowing you'd ignored her emails. She believed you were a good man who made selfish choices, not an evil man who made calculated ones. She believed you'd protect Daniel. Once you knew the truth. Was she right? Ethan looks past Maria. Daniel is peeking around her legs now. Curious, wary. This small person who shares his DNA. His eyes. His stubborn chin that Ethan's mother always said he got from his grandfather. Can I? Ethan's voice cracks. Can I meet him? Properly? Maria steps aside. 3 months later. Ethan Carter is no longer CEO of Tech Vanguard. The company has been seized by federal regulators, dissolved, its assets sold to pay settlements to the victims of its corporate espionage. David Morrison and 4 other executives are awaiting trial for murder, fraud, and a dozen other charges that will keep them in prison until they're very old men. The empire Ethan built is gone. The fortune, mostly gone, seized in civil suits and settlements. The penthouse, the cars, the trappings of success he thought defined him, all gone. But on a Saturday morning in January, Ethan sits on the floor of a modest 2-bedroom apartment in Park Slope, building a Lego spaceship with a 5-year-old boy who calls him Papa now, tentatively, like he's testing out the word to see if it fits. Papa, does this piece go here? Let me see. Yeah, that's perfect. You're really good at this. Daniel beams. Maria says I get my smartness from you. They build in comfortable silence. Through the window, Brooklyn spreads out under winter sun. Ordinary, unglamorous, real. Maria is in the kitchen making lunch. She's Daniel's legal guardian still. But Ethan sees his son every weekend now. Sleepovers on Fridays. Park visits on Saturdays. A custody arrangement that works because they both want what's best for the boy who lost his mother but gained a father. It's not the life Ethan imagined, but it's a life. One built on truth instead of lies, on presence instead of absence, on love instead of ambition. The flash drive Julia left, it contained everything. 5 years of evidence documenting Tech Vanguard's theft of proprietary technology from Chinese companies, then selling it to U.S. military contractors as original innovation. Emails, financial records, witness testimonies Julia had secretly recorded. Everything needed to bring down the conspiracy that killed her. The password was simple: Daniel's birthday. Julia knew Ethan would only unlock it once he acknowledged his son, once he proved he was the man she'd hoped he could be. But here's the thing. Here's the question that keeps Ethan awake some nights. The question that makes him hold Daniel a little tighter, makes him check the locks twice, makes him scan faces in crowds. David Morrison's trial revealed something chilling. The conspiracy wasn't just about Tech Vanguard. It went deeper. Defense contractors, government officials, corporate networks spanning continents. And while David and his immediate accomplices are in custody, the investigation is ongoing, which means others are still out there. Others who know about Daniel, about the flash drive, about the evidence that could still bring down powerful people. So yes, Ethan saved his son, exposed the truth, destroyed the conspiracy that killed Julia. But did he really win? Or did he just paint a permanent target on his family's back? That's the question Ethan can't answer. The shadow that haunts his new, quieter life. Because every time Daniel asks, Papa, will you be here next weekend too? Ethan has to wonder, will there be a next weekend? Will the remaining conspirators come for them? Will history repeat itself? Or has Ethan finally, truly, learned to put his son before everything else? Even his own survival? Only time will tell. And time, as Julia learned too late, is never on anyone's side. The Lego spaceship is finished. Daniel holds it up, proud, grinning that gap-toothed smile that breaks Ethan's heart every single time. Can we make another one? Daniel asks. We can make 100, Ethan promises. I've got all the time in the world. And for now, in this moment, that's enough. The spaceship, the boy, the second chance Ethan never thought he'd get. It has to be enough. Because the alternative, living in fear, running from shadows, letting the conspiracy win even after Julia sacrificed everything to expose it, that's not living at all. So Ethan chooses to be present, to be here, to be the father Julia always believed he could become, even if it costs him everything else. Now I need to hear from you, because this story, Ethan's story, Julia's story, Daniel's story, it asks a question that doesn't have an easy answer. What would you do if you discovered that the success you built, the empire you created, was founded on lies and blood? Would you burn it all down to do the right thing? Or would you protect what you built, even if it meant living with the guilt? And here's the harder question. If acknowledging the truth meant putting your child in danger, would you still do it? Or would you let sleeping secrets lie, even knowing they killed someone you once loved? Drop your answer in the comments. Tell me, is Ethan a hero who finally did the right thing, or is he a fool who destroyed his life for a son he barely knows? Is Maria a saint who protected Daniel at all costs, or was she wrong to wait 5 years before bringing the truth to light? And Julia, did she make the ultimate sacrifice by leaving breadcrumbs to expose a conspiracy, or did she unfairly use her son as bait in a dangerous game? I want to hear your thoughts, your stories, because I guarantee some of you watching this right now are facing impossible choices of your own, choosing between ambition and family, between success and integrity, between the life you planned and the life you're called to live. And if the story taught us anything, it's that those choices define us, not our bank accounts, not our corner offices, not our empires, just the choices we make when everything is on the line. So comment below. Hit that like button if this story made you feel something. Subscribe because I've got more stories like this. Real, raw, complicated stories about people navigating impossible situations. Stories that ask hard questions and don't always have clean answers. And share this video, because somewhere out there, someone needs to hear that it's never too late to do the right thing, that second chances exist, that even the worst mistakes can be redeemed if you're willing to pay the price. Ethan Carter lost everything to gain what mattered most. What are you willing to lose? And what are you fighting to gain? Tell me in the comments. I'll be reading every single one. This is American Storytelling, where we dive deep into the messy, complicated, beautiful chaos of real human experience. See you in the next story.